Cocoa Beach Council.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call to order the 25 January 2023 meeting of the Canaveral Port Authority Board of Commissioners. And Commissioner Lloyd, could you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It's been suggested to me that we consider a brief moment of silence in recognition of some of our port luminaries, Captain Ed Lanny and Cynthia Handley. As well, I suppose we could add some of the recent tragedies around the country. So a brief moment. Okay, thanks very much. May I have a motion to approve our agenda?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
May I have a motion to approve our last meeting minutes?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
In attendance today, I see Mike Gautreaux and Dennis Hepburn are some of our ambassadors, including Mr. Sox and Sean Conway, as well as ever-present Mac McLeod. Welcome, all of you. I'm reminded, Carolyn Willis from the Cocoa Beach City Council. Thanks for coming. So 2022 recreation update, which is something I understand that we do periodically. And who's...
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners,
Yes.
Good morning, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
My name is Mike Hoffman. I'm the Assistant Director for Recreation and Customer Experience. And today I'll be doing a brief presentation on the 2022 Annual Recreation Update. As outlined in the charter, there was a notification of this presentation published prior to this. But if you don't have any questions, I'll go ahead and get started. All right, so this first slide is just a brief overview of all the recreational amenities and experiences that the Recreation Department provides here at Port Canaveral. Those experiences include parks, boating, fishing, camping, beach access through Jetty Park, the Exploration Tower, and special events. First, we're going to take a look at the Exploration Tower. We had a little over 18,000 guests that visited the Exploration Tower in 2022. During that time frame, there was limited hours of operation, Friday through Sunday from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. We did close on July 5th of 2022. If you haven't noticed, there's a wall of scaffolding on the exterior of the Exploration Tower. That's because there's currently renovations going on. Engineering department has done a fantastic job keeping us apprised of how that project's going, but we're estimating a reopen time sometime in spring of 2023. We also hosted 4 different launch viewings during that time frame that garnered about 160 guests. We hope to increase launch viewings at the Exploration Tower once we reopen, considering the unique rooftop experience for launch viewings for guests. We also had the July fireworks event on the 4th floor for 100 VIP guests. We had light refreshments and some catered snacks, and also an exceptional view of the fireworks show itself. All right, moving on to special events. We had various special events throughout the port, throughout the calendar year. Just a quick reminder, we do have submittal periods for special events in the months of March and September for the public and organizations to submit their event requests. Some of those approved and popular events that happened in 2022 was Thunder on Cocoa Beach. This is one of our bigger events. It's a multi-day event that garners several thousands of people over multiple days, not just here locally, but also internationally. We also had the July fireworks event, which is held on the grounds of the Exploration Tower, where you have several vendors, activities, and a DJ for our guests to enjoy. We also secured a barge that was anchored in the channel this year as a launch point for the fireworks show. This greatly enhanced the fireworks show, and hopefully we can use that moving forward. We also had the Propeller Club's Shrimp Feast, the Kids Fishing Clinic, which historically has been at a cruise terminal but was moved to Jetty Park this year. We had several private aerospace industry events, the Canaveral Port Ministries Walk for Bibles, and the ever-popular Red Snapper season. All right, looking at Jetty Park, as you guys know, rocket launches have greatly increased throughout the years. 2022 was no different. This past year, I'm proud to say that Jetty Park remained open 52 out of the 57 launches that happened in 2022. Big kudos to the recreation team for remaining diligent and keeping Jetty Park open for our guests to have a viewpoint for the rocket launches. Some of the more notable launches that happened in 2022 was the NASA Artemis 1, the SpaceX Heavy Land Landing, SpaceX Crew missions, and the Boeing Starliner Orbital Test Flight 2. Recreation Department has been working hand in hand with the Engineering Department in developing and finalizing a blueprint for the potential of a new camp store. We're very excited about the potential of this facility, considering it will greatly enhance our guest experience, but also enhance the department's operations. Lastly, we also implemented a new online reservation system through Camp Life. It's strictly now online, so our guests go to camplife.com, select their campsite, and then also just make payment there. It's streamlined the process and made it more seamless for our guests and also our staff. We also have a reservation kiosk right there in the camp store, so if you're staying with us, you're popped in, buying some things at the camp store, you can pop in at the kiosk, either extend your stay or just create a new reservation in the future. I'd also like to recognize three of the recreation leaders in attendance today. You guys want to stand up? We have Lisa Mayer, who is our Jetty Park manager. We have Teresa Murphy, who is our Exploration Tower manager, and Samantha Geyer, who is our Special Events Assistant Manager. Thank you guys for coming today. All three of them play a really integral role in implementing what was outlined in today's presentation, and couldn't be more proud of their hard work and dedication to the port. And with that said, just want to say thank you for your continued support, and we look forward to another fantastic year in 2023.
Thank you, Mr. Hoffman. Appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Anyone have any questions?
I've got a couple of points.
Very good.
2 points. First, I want to thank you, the staff, particularly those those special events for the NASA, for the launches for Artemis 1. Those were they were kind of pop-ups, and they weren't particularly, the requirements weren't very clearly articulated, and there was a lot of hoop jumping. But at the end of the day, they were big events, incredibly big events that we pulled off. But it was only because of your hard work and effort and rolling with the punches kind of thing. And
Absolutely.
So I want to thank you for that. Recognize it, and ideally, I know we work hard to not have to do that. So we'll kind of keep doing that.
Yeah, it was definitely a port-wide effort. Wasn't just recreation, but we appreciate it. We definitely was a lot. And, after all that, it scrubbed, three times before it actually went off. But we were happy to do it and provide that, for the aerospace industry and the public.
And the second point would be, as you kind of alluded to, if there's anything that's ripe for a new look, and that's the Exploration Tower. It's been down now, and it's getting all cleaned up, ready to go. And as hard as you can look to repurpose that is to be more efficient and effective and productive and all that stuff, and let's keep at it. Okay, we've got a nice place there, but it's it's got its challenges and its restrictions, but you can still make it.
Yeah, absolutely. We lean on Captain Murray's guidance, and we'll figure out what we can do with it.
Great, thanks.
Awesome. Thank you.
Next matter is commission discussion items, and in particular, we have been tasked every 10 years to select members of the community to serve as their own committee to offer some comments and review of the Port Charter. And so I'll go through the list that each commissioner has nominated. Commissioner Allender selected Robbie Roberts and Eileen Davis. I have selected Marcus Herman. Marcus, please stand up and say hello. Marcus, I've known Marcus almost my whole life. He's very active in civic matters. It has been forever. He's been on the Merritt Island Redevelopment Agency board for 20 years. Long time. And then a little more hometowning, I nominated Jeff McLean. He's recently retired athletic director at Merritt Island High School and longtime head football coach, and he's eager and enthusiastic with his newfound free time to offer his services. Commissioner Van Valkenburg has selected former Port Commissioner Robin Hadaway and Andy Barber. Commissioner Lloyd has selected Stan Retz and William Shivers, a strong North Brevard presence. And Commissioner Justice, a good cross-section, Mr. Bob Bogger and Cole Oliver. And I think, in my view, I know of many, if not all of these folks, and I think it's a very good cross-section. And I'm hopeful and confident that they'll do a great job. Any other comments? No? Okay.
I did, just so we can talk about this in the meeting, but I did ask staff to please make sure that these volunteers, if you will, are their time is valuable, and we wanted to make sure that we have video conferencing available and that we keep it to a minimum, Harold. You know what I mean? Like no like 3-hour speeches. So just their time is valuable.
We have a proposed schedule to lay out. It takes into account these busy people, working people, most of them. And so we will be protective of their time. I don't anticipate more than maybe 2 meetings a month, and maybe for 3 months. I think that should be sufficient.
I'd like to.
2 meetings a month for 3 months. That's our initial goal. We're going to send out a proposed schedule to set up the first meeting. And after that, of course, then the committee will set their own meetings after that. But if we need more, we can have more, but I think that the task is not going to be that difficult because our charter's in good shape, I think, in my opinion. And I think we should be able to take care of this expeditiously.
If I could add to that, the time, I think the timing is important. Talking to, Diane, because it's an election year next year, the legislators will be meeting in January, which means that they're going to be working, July, August, putting together their, so if something that's going to need to be addressed by them at next legislation, this thing should be done, ideally in the first 3 months, like you said. I mean, that should be a goal driven by the legislative side.
Yeah, we have to work around your commission's meeting schedule and the delegation, of course. And delegation, you have some lead time to get the stuff to them.
Right.
So
Keep that in mind as
we're
the
very
whole
aware of
thing is
that.
put together. Yeah.
take care of it.
And I believe, Captain Murray, you or a member of your team are going to help organize sort of a meet and greet and get these volunteers sort of acclimated to port operations and port life.
Yeah, what we are planning to do is once Harold gets the first date set and we do that meeting, we'll go and do a presentation. I'm not sure how familiar all of the members are with the port, but thought it'd be good just to give them a high-level overview. And for anyone that's interested, maybe we can do a drive around the port just so they can see the different operations here. As we discussed earlier this week, a lot of folks have never been to the north side of the port because there's no reason to go there, and there's a lot happening over there. So,
Yeah, I would really encourage them to consider that. I think it was very enlightening for me when I did it. years ago. So, Mr. Beislein, do I need a motion to approve?
Yeah, motion to approve the committee members.
Okay, may I have one?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Okay, Captain Murray, I think you're up for the CEO report.
Good morning. All right, well, we're going to jump right in to our cruise update. We've been a very, very busy place for the last 3 months since our fiscal year started. Already in our fiscal year, first 3 months being over, we've had 243 cruise ship calls, 1.7 million multi-day passengers in 3 months. December was a unique month for us. I think I reported a few meetings ago that we had a 500 million people in 1 month, and that was a new record for us. Well, we did over 700,000 passenger movements in December alone. And if you look at 2 particular dates, the 23rd and 24th of December, we did over 100,000 people that weekend, and the following weekend, over 96,000. It was, we spent a lot of time in advance coordinating to make sure we had as little disruption as possible. We brought in support from BCSO. It was a lot of help keeping the traffic flowing, and it was an all-out effort to plan it up front, and for the most part, it was quite successful. I'm going to touch on something else in a minute, though, that wasn't so successful, but I'll do that on the next slide. Norwegia Prima, beautiful brand new ship, just arrived on December 11th. She delivered from the yard in Italy in August, so that's how new the ship was. Still had that new ship smell. We did the plaque exchange on December 16th, and we also have the Independence of the Seas scheduled dry dock. It has a scheduled dry dock. Ship's in Cadiz, Spain right now. She'll be back in mid-February. And during that time, the 3 and 4 days being covered by the Mariner of the Seas, which was on a 5-5-4 rotation, but now she's going to cover the Independence until Independence comes back. So, next slide. This is just I'm going to start presenting this every month, I think, because it's helpful just to understand what's going on here. But it's going to be a rolling 12 months, and so we run from December 21 to December 22, and we'll follow next month with January, et cetera. But the point here is to see where we were in December of 21, where we were just under 300,000 guests, and in December of 22 we did over 700,000. And it's just to highlight in graphic form how busy our port is right now, and as I mentioned before, how sensitive we are to any minor disruption that things that we haven't run into in the past. And with this, I do want to highlight we've isolated one terminal, which is a particular problem for us right now. It's Cruise Terminal 10. Cruise Terminal 10 is set up with pay-on-exit parking, and we've got facial recognition with CBP right now, and we had an incident earlier in the month where we had a 2-day voyage. And when I talked about the previous slide, on the cruise lines all moved their schedules around, so no one was loading out on a Sunday, which was New Year's Day and Christmas Day. So there was a collection of ships. So one of the ways to get back on schedule is you run a shorter voyage or a longer voyage. And one of our cruise lines ran a 2-day voyage. And on the 2-day voyage, it was a lot of people. It was over 5,000 people on the ship. It debarked in no time, and you say, how could that be? Everybody just rushed off the ship at once. Well, it was 2 days. Nobody had any checked luggage. So the luggage hall was empty. It totally expedited the departures from the ship, and everybody descended on the garage at the same time. Simple math with our 4 gates all operating and the time it takes to process getting out, there's no way you can get that many people out that quickly. This is a pay-on-exit garage. We've isolated that as an issue. We had a similar issue on a 3-day at the same location. So we're doing some radical changes right now. We're going to change some of the ground transportation flow. That's going to happen as early as this coming Sunday. We're also going to look at, and I haven't got a firm answer on it yet, but look at doing a pay-on entry for this particular garage instead of pay-on-exit. We'll have to do it with handheld units. It's not as efficient. It's more manpower intensive, but we're going to do it because we can't have people stuck in a garage. So starting this Sunday, we'll start making these improvements on this garage. Another thing we may come back to the board next month is we're doing the new parking system, and Cruise Terminal 1 was our poster child to make sure it works fine, and then we'll go out to the other terminals. We may migrate that to Cruise Terminal 10 first and get that terminal finished so that we can expedite the fluidity of the facility. The vessels that are calling there now aren't leaving. They're staying, and some of them are getting larger. So we need to fix the problem. We've identified it, and we're focused. So if anybody has any questions on that, I know there's been some feedback from the public, and I just want everyone to know we are focused on it.
I would just add, yes, feedback from the public, but I want to underscore our staff's efforts and BCSO's efforts. I know there's been real challenge, and it's been changing, and people have been asked to step up to keep things going. You guys have done a really good job. I'm going to call you out on that. Thanks. All right. Thanks.
That's great. Thanks. Okay, so if there's no other questions on that, I'll move on to our cargo, which is also doing exceptionally well. We've had 143 calls already this year, revenue at 4.3 million, and cargo tonnage at 1.8 million tons, all ahead of what we did last year, October to December. We had a vessel, the MV Bulk Valor, discharged 52,000 metric tons of aggregate. Most of the aggregate is, well, it was all granite, crushed granite. ASI has signed a new agreement with the shippers of this product, and we'll be bringing in up to 800,000 metric tons of aggregate every year going forward. This is a new customer. They've never done business here before, and the cargo is moving straight off the dock into the hands of highway construction companies. It's all being used for Florida road construction. So I think that's a great story of how we're helping out the rest of our construction projects in Florida. We also had the MV Saga Fantasy discharged 62,000 metric cubic meters of lumber from Sweden. It's the largest discharge we've ever had of lumber from one vessel, record-breaking delivery. So we've got something to show you later on that. On the communications, we have another recognition, Best U.S. Cruise Home Port in 2022. This is the third year in a row that we've won this with Cruise Hive, and our goal is to keep that for a fourth year, which is why we're going to tack any problems we have right now, make sure we don't frustrate our cruise guests. We'd like a four-peat. On the social media alerts, we've ramped that up on all platforms for real-time notifications. We are notifying schedule changes, cruise terminal adjustments, arriving and departing guests. Sometimes the ship is delayed. Sometimes there's a medical emergency and they arrive at a different time. So we're pushing all that out proactively to try and educate folks on their way to the port so that they can time their arrivals without creating unnecessary traffic. We also, when we do get some traffic backups, we're pushing those notices out for 528 and 401 traffic backups. We've got signage up 528 now that alerts of slow traffic ahead, and we're working very closely with FDOT to coordinate and expedite traffic messaging as quickly as possible. We're also publishing notices of Coast Guard's launch safety zones. As soon as they come out, we're putting them out on our social media as well. Just for the general public, not everybody gets the Coast Guard safety zones when they're published, so we're using it as additional push out of information to the community. Our publications are being received quite fondly. We have the Waypoint, which is our Port Canaveral newsletter. Everything's electronic now. It comes out bi-monthly. We have over 10,000 subscribers. And the address here is if someone wants to subscribe. We also have Port Trade, Canaveral Cargo Today, which is our cargo newsletter, which is published quarterly, have over 600 subscribers. And the address for anyone interested in subscribing is on the slide as well. On the government relations side, I've spoken in the past about some of our challenges with Customs and Border Protection and expenses that they sometimes require us to comply with their rules, etc. And we've had a few instances where we've pushed back and said we're not doing this, and we've taken it to the highest levels. Port Canaveral and our team in Washington have taken it to the highest levels in the Congress, and the new bill, Omnibus bill that was just passed, has some very hard fought for language in there that helps protect all ports in the United States. And it really codifies how Customs and Border Protection will work with ports and incorporate feedback into future facility and security needs. CBP has to report to Appropriations Committee on what they're doing and to Congress before they can just push things at us to buy new computers, new buildings, whatever. They also have to provide ports with baseline service levels. It's now required. They just can't say you're going to pay overtime if you want service, which they've done in instances in the past. CBP is to provide Congress now with quarterly reports, including justification for facility and security upgrades. They now have to defer all current and future seaport facility agreements until it has provided ports and Congress with details and estimated costs for the above. And the specific Port Canaveral language that we got into this bill was CBP is expected to work in partnership with seaports and refrain from imposing requirements on seaports in a unilateral fashion. That's big. So it was.
That's huge.
It is, and I want to thank our government relations team here in Washington for making that happen. That was something we ran solo with this, and it's in the bill.
This is years worth of work culminating. It's really super big deal. Great job.
So,
And I think that's important, an important illustration of what perhaps many of us are not aware of, that we work a lot to a great substantial level with our federal government
we do.
partners, and it's a very important part of the operations here.
We've got a great federal government relations team, and you can't always move the mountain with Congress, as we all know, but sometimes you can make things happen. So this is a perfect example of some language in there, and because it came out of the Senate originally, and then when they put the two bills together in the House, the language survived the conference committee, and it's in the final bill.
Great.
Codified. So there we go. Also on the federal side, we recently had a meeting here in this room a few weeks ago with Canaveral Launch Operations stakeholders, and it was a coordinated meeting with the Coast Guard, the Space Force, and commercial space operator SpaceX. And the idea was to improve our lines of communications between Space Force, the people out on the range that are actually involved in the launches, Coast Guard personnel in that office with Space Force at every launch, and with space operator SpaceX, and just improve our communication and coordination overall with multiple agencies and jurisdictions. It was a great session. We have some great improvements that we've already made that will help enhance our communication. And the goal here is to make sure our maritime assets can continue to operate at the same time the space industry is ramping up. And every time there's a launch, safety zones go out, and it affects everyone from Victory Casino to cruise ships, to cargo ships, to fishermen. And it's an interesting process to go through, because when that safety zone is up, nobody's supposed to be in it. However, sometimes there are people in it, and then there are assessments made whether to go forward with the launch or not go forward with the launch, depending who's in the safety zone. But the goal is to have no one in it. So it was a very, very good session. I think we'll be continuing to work closely in the future. We also had the Naval Ordnance Test Unit commander visit the port on January 12th. We had a great operations briefing with one another, and there's a few common areas that we're going to work together on going forward, and it was a good session. So glad to have them as partners. Losing my breath. On the state side, we had the annual Brevard Legislative Delegation meeting on January 11th. We presented our 2023 legislative priorities. The legislature session begins on Tuesday, March 7th. Committee meetings are being monitored now, especially with FDOT, Fish and Wildlife presentations. We've got individual meetings scheduled with members, but it's been difficult due to limited availability. Everybody is very, very busy right now, and most of our delegation is in Tallahassee for the duration. Next week, we'll have Florida's District 5 Secretary that just came on last year when Jared Perdue went to the state level, and he'll be visiting LaPorte on the 31st. On March 21st, we have Seaports Day at the Capitol. We have a Florida Ports Council meeting in Tallahassee that week, and Seaports Day is really where we set up our own little booth presentations, and we get to speak with the legislators one-on-one in an informal atmosphere. And then on March 22nd is Brevard Day at the Capitol with the Brevard County Chambers. So we got a busy couple of months ahead of us. Interns, we have 5, and they're sitting in the front row, and they're all wearing the blue shirts, so they're easy to highlight. So I'm going to highlight each one of you, and if you'll just stand up and so everyone knows who you are. First, I'd like Dominic Antonellis to stand up. Dominic is Massachusetts Maritime, and his major is Bachelor of Science in International Maritime Business. So, and next, we have Joseph Debellino. Joseph's Cargo Business Development Intern. He's at Mass Maritime, Bachelor of Science International Maritime Business. Next, we have Kobe DeRocher. He's working with the Harbor Master and the Line Handling Intern. He's from Mass Maritime as well. Bachelor of Science in International Maritime Business. Next, we have Amanda Robinson. She's working with our Public Safety Security Intern, Mass Maritime, Bachelor of Science in Emergency Management. And lastly, let's see, next we have Caitlin Faust. She's a returning intern. Caitlin was with us last summer, and this is her second time. She's a senior and will be graduating soon, and maybe she might want to work here. We don't know. She's an environmental intern, Florida Institute of Technology. Bachelor of Science in Ocean Engineering, minors in Sustainability and Management. We're glad to have all of you here, and I hope you're getting a lot out of your internship this winter. So thanks, everybody. You can see we're getting a lot of Mass Maritime people now.
Any interest in the Coast Guard?
They're in international business. No interest in the Coast Guard. Okay. Last is a public safety update. We passed our annual Coast Guard inspection and audit security program with no discrepancies. Our team has been attending industry meetings to maintain situational awareness with regards to the safety of the port. We've had a regional domestic security task force event, and then a Central Florida Intelligence Exchange over in Orlando. We've hosting next week Mass Maritime Emergency Management students on January 30th. They're coming down to have an overview of our emergency management program and to have an LNG burn demonstration at the Maritime School behind the Maritime Center. We're also coordinating with FDOT and BCSO for traffic alerts and traffic management, and that's one of the things that I mentioned earlier in the presentation. The sooner we can get information out, the sooner we can slow down the public. If we've got a jam or a ship's delayed, we can slow the process down and try to mitigate. And it takes a partnership to make it happen. And both FDOT and BCSO have been very close partners in this task. So my last slide is a test. What is that?
Lumber.
There's some smart people here. Either that or you read waypoints and you figured it out already. But this is that ship with the largest discharge load of lumber here at Port Canaveral in our history. So if you have any questions. Okay, it's my presentation. Thank you.
Mr. Poole, sorry.
So thank you. Good morning. So this is for public information purposes. Our fiscal year is an October 1, September 30 year. So the numbers we'll be showing you are the first 3 months. So we're a quarter into our fiscal year. And as we presented to you in the budget that you approved at the end of September, our targets revenue-wise, it's $154 million in revenue, and that's as a result of cruise activity of 5.8 million passengers, and on the cargo side, it's 6.5 million tons. So the numbers that we'll be showing are going to be compared to that, and then also on an annual basis. So the numbers that we show to you that we're projecting or that we're budgeting for the first 3 months, it's not linear. We know when the cruise ships are coming in and our occupancy levels, and we forecast historically the cargo trends. They don't come in on a 1/12 basis each month. So, but that's the numbers. So 154 million in revenues and 6.5 million tons of cargo and 5.8 cruise passengers. So how are we doing the first 3 months of the year? Almost $49 million in revenue. That is 8.7 million or 21% above budget. On the expense side, our 13 departments plus depreciation is $27.1 million. That's 1.1 million or 4% below budget. And What's generating that on the revenue side? Why are we in excess of $8 million above budget? On the cruise side, that's $7 million, and that's because of passengers. If you see there, we forecasted 1.56 million passengers. We have 1.7 million. So that additional 144,000 passengers is helping to generate that positive revenue variance over our forecast of $7 million. On the cargo side, we're 919,000 above our budget. Why is that? We forecasted 1.57 million tons of cargo. We're at 1.8 million. So that 253,000 tons of cargo has helped additional above our forecast, has generated an additional $919,000 above our forecast. So cargo and cruise, those two line items is what's driving the story here. Cruise by itself, it's $40 million. That's cruise parking, as compared to budget of $33 million. That's $7 million above budget. It's 243 calls, 1.7 million passengers. I wanted to highlight here, this is touching on what John is showing here. First 3 months of the year is 500,000 passengers in October, 500,000 in November. You can see we're just slightly above budget in each one of those months. We're like 7% above budget. And from a passenger count, in October, we were 8% above budget. In November, we were actually about 12%, 700,000 passengers. Why? December's traditionally a higher month. In each quarter, you always have one month that's a little bit higher than the other two. In our first quarter of our year, December is always a higher month. In December, we also had 5 weeks. And so that gave us one extra Friday, one extra Saturday. And I wanted to highlight this, Cruise Terminal 5. We have 6 cruise terminals, and Cruise Terminal 5 is now being used regularly by 2 of our lines. NCL, that's Norwegian Cruise Lines. John mentioned the Prima. RCI, that's Royal Caribbean, the Jewel of the Sea. So of our 6 cruise terminals, we are busy. All 6 of them are being used by multiple lines and multiple calls here. Some of them even more than 2. But when you add all 3 of those reasons together, that's why December was such a strong month here. Now the calls are right on forecast. When we're getting the call counts from a forecast from the cruise lines, they're giving it to us 18 months out. So we're right on budget in the calls. It's just our passenger numbers are coming in above our original forecast. So what does that mean? All in 3 months, we were about 9% above our forecast in passengers. And that's showing to the bottom line there in revenues. On cargo, we have 5.4 million. My number I show is in addition to John's number that he showed, which is wharfage and dockage. I include rent in there that our cargo tenants pay. So the first 3 months of the year, our cargo business is responsible for 5.4 million. We budgeted 4.5 million. That's 900,000 above budget. That 1.8 million tons, it's the big 5. That we always do: fuel, limestone, granite, lumber, slag. The first 4 are all above budget and all above prior year. Slag, slightly below budget and slightly below prior year. But those numbers, hitting above our forecasted number is also what's driving why our revenue numbers are coming in above. It's tied to construction. It's tied to the regional area as well. The last 3 segments of our business: leases, recreation, miscellaneous revenues, are above budget by about 180,000. Leases are above budget. Jetty Park is slightly below, and miscellaneous, which is several items, including commercial vehicle fees, is above budget as well. So that miscellaneous line item ties directly to our cruise activity as well. So when cruise fees and cruise passengers are generally at budget or above, miscellaneous tracks right with that line item as well. This summarizes it here. We're at 21%, 8.7 million. You can see all items except recreation are at or above budget, and it's nothing to worry about on Jetty Park. Last year, Jetty Park generated over $4 million to the bottom line here for us. Very important segment of our business. Going to expenses, we budgeted 28.2. We're at 27.1. That 1.1 million above budget is 4% under. You can see all the departments are under budget except for operations of 71,000 3 months into our year. That's just the cost of doing business. We have 3 line items in that department that are higher than our originally forecasted numbers because it's directly related to cruise. We have credit card processing fees that when we take credit card payments from the cruise passengers that use our parking facilities, we pay a processing fee to the bank. I budgeted a certain level. We're paying at a higher level, excuse me, to the bank because, we're generating additional revenue here. So there's also some shuttle services that's in that line item as well. So at this point, we don't need a budget transfer. We'll monitor it. Even if you annualize that, we can do department-to-department transfers to cover this projected overage. If we go over above that number from a total operating expense standpoint, I think we budgeted $57 million for the year. If we go over that amount, we will come to the board and ask for a budget amendment at that time, but at this point, we don't see that we need one. And to summarize here, 3 months into the year, your revenues of 49 million, operating expenses of 27 million, generates operating income of almost 22 million. Your non-operating revenues of $7 million is made up of 2 things. The final payments on those ARPA funds, the American Rescue Plan Act funds, will be receiving 15 million this year. A portion of that 15 million is in that 7 million. The balance of it is the investment income that we earn on our cash and investments, non-operating expenses, relates to our debt, and that generates a positive $26 million that's available for us, mainly for our capital development. We can use it to reduce our debt when that's available, our line of credits, but a lot of that money right now is earmarked toward our capital budget. This year's capital budget is $76 million, $23 million funded by the federal and state government through grants, $53 million out of port funds, and that's what that $26 million is earmarked to, that Bill speaks to on a monthly basis. Mr. Chairman, that's my report. If there's any questions, I'm here to answer them.
Just a reminder, if you would, please, do I remember correctly from our briefing that at least for 1 month, we had more passengers than Port Miami?
I'll defer to John on that. Do you want to?
Nothing's official until the audits are completed at both ports.
Okay, just throwing that challenge out there.
Yeah, very, Mr. Chairman, very strong numbers. I'll just leave it at that.
All right, thanks very much. Great report.
But I normally go to our treasurer, Commissioner Justice, if we could ask for an acceptance and approval of the reports that are listed in the agenda, unless there's any questions on any of the reports.
No questions. I get a motion for accepting the financial memo, accepting the statistical aging and the list of bills.
I'll second that.
I need a motion first.
Mr. Van Valkenburg, a motion, you're going to move it.
Okay.
First. No,
He wasn't making a motion, he's asking for it.
Absolutely, I'll make the motion.
Thank you.
And I'll second the motion.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, then also looking for a motion for the approval of the list of disposals, legal bills, and the commission of minor expenses for November, December.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks.
Mr. Chairman, I do recommend that this next portion, we put a time limit on it, just to keep Bill in check.
Mr. Crowe,
Fast, I promise.
Hey, Bill, I'm not going to hijack you here, but
it's a long list.
I don't know how we're spending our money, but talk about tie in how we got ahead on 5. Terminal 5 has got these nice big ships there because of what you've done.
Some advanced planning and working with Cruise Business Development. Obviously, they play a key role in strategizing the future size of vessels that are coming to the port. So at Cruise Terminal 5, we were able to expand not the terminal, but also very important is the mooring improvements for Terminal 5. And that allowed us to put the large ships like the Prima that you saw in the photo during John's presentation. So thank you for pointing that out. I would like to have that not counted against my time. So, but I will start off by just mentioning that Bob Musser has provided a Get Well Better card for Dr. Dwayne Fries, the Executive Director of the Indian River Lagoon Council. It's at the back of the room. Dwayne's been a great partner to the community for so long, and certainly a friend to the port. So we wish him well. Going to start off with a video of North Cargo Berth 3 improvements. My pleasure to highlight several key features. The monopile dolphins that we've been talking about for quite some time are going to be connected by a catwalk for access for our line handling group. You can see the rebar for what is about 400 linear feet of bulkhead cap that's remaining to be cast. Coming up here, you're going to see a 50-foot section of the formwork that is installed prior to casting each section of that concrete cap. And then you'll get a shot of the 550 linear feet that we have cast so far. So we're over halfway there on that very important bulkhead cap, and the contractor has started on that relieving platform that's 24 inches thick, cast on top of all those concrete piles that we drove. And ultimately, you're going to see brand new asphalt pavement in that entire area. So it's going to be a great asset to our cargo capabilities, and we're really excited to have that one wrapped up in April. Again, thanks to Patrick Hammond and John Van Matry for putting that video together for me. Moving into the next cargo project that we're going to be embarking on is North Cargo Berth 4, the sister project, and you can see from the graphic that dark shaded area is going to be the limits of asphalt pavement once that project is done. It's currently being advertised, so we have that out on the street as of January 13th. Qualifications is the first step. February 14th, Valentine's Day. Please remember your Valentine. Those packages will be due, and we will turn that pre-qualification step around and have all the design plans and specs to our contractors by February 24th. Bids are going to be due March 29th. That is a low bid lump sum project. We'll have value engineering also added to the process, and ultimately bring you packages for recommendation for award at the April 5th commission meeting. Another part to that is a subaqueous crossing that is owned by Florida Power and Light that crosses under the channel in roughly this location. Also at that April 5th meeting, we're going to bring a request to issue a purchase order to FPL to lower that line as well. By the time we were to drive the combi wall, king piles, and sheet piles in that area, it's too shallow, so we would knife through it. So one of the first steps is to get that subaqueous crossing lowered, and we've been working in conjunction with FPL for quite some time on that design. They're going to be bidding it out in March, so we'll have a firm number when we come at the April 5th meeting. Any questions on that project?
So this is right in front of the CMIX silos, and I think it's important for us to remember that CMIX has not brought anything into this port for quite some time as far as cargo. So this will be a huge improvement if I'm sitting at Fish Lips looking across the water. So I'm excited.
It really will be, and there's an expiration date of their lease, September 24, and they have 60 days to restore the facility, restore the property. So we're really excited about the renewal of that entire area. And in fact, we've been working closely with CMEX on demo of certain portions of the facility that is in the footprint of the new construction project. So they've been really good to work with so far on removal of the assets that we needed to have removed. Moving on to the State Road 401 bridge painting with W&J, the project is going very well. This is a shot of one of the areas of the bridge that has been repaired, repainted, that's not in the travel lanes. So it's a port-owned bridge. We inspect it every 2 years as required by DOT, and then we perform the improvements that are recommended. We've done the east and west sections that are not in the travel lanes, but upcoming we will have some road closures. So my team, Patrick Hammond, is working with Public Safety and Security to make sure that we get advertisement out to all the tenants and stakeholders that use 401. You see here that red shaded area is one of the lane closures. Well, we'll be closing down roughly half of 401 travel lanes underneath the bridge while we do those bridge repairs. And then obviously we're going to switch to the other side and do those bridge repairs. And then the bridge will be wrapped up. We'll be good for another couple of years. The mobile harbor crane is moving along quite nicely over in Rostock, Germany, and you see a photo of some of the key components here These are supports for the multiple bogies, the wheel sets underneath here. Those are the actual supports that have been fabricated. They'll be moved into painting shortly, and you see cylindrical sections of the new mast in the background as well. So they're making great progress, and again, they're going to be moving those components into painting shortly. Exploration tower repairs, and my hat is off to my colleague Mike Hoffman. I really appreciated how in his presentation he noted spring of 2023 as opposed to any particular month, so thank you, Mike, for that. Where it was originally scheduled to be scaffolding down in February. It's looking like we got a little delay on that, but the contractor is doing an excellent job on this repair work. This is an up-close version of, actually let me clarify this, all panels have been removed in phase 1 and phase 2. Phase 3 panels are still up. Those will be removed after we reinstall phase 1 panels. So phase 1, phase 2 panels have all been safely removed and stored, cleaned and stored, and appropriately labeled. They will be put back in place. This is what it looks like underneath. So one of the problem childs has been what we call a hat channel, and that is shown right here in the photo. That hat channel used to have an exposed edge that would capture rainwater and let it sit there and slowly leak into the building through penetrations from the anchor system. We have now wrapped the top side of that hat channel in flashing foam, this Protecto wrap, which is the waterproof membrane, and substantial caulking as well. So you can see a little bit of a relief edge right there. That's the top of the hat channel that's been waterproofed and sealed. And they're going back in and they're checking all the joints to add waterproofing membrane where they need to. So a lot of new caulking and flashing is going in. We are getting new windows, all of what we call the single punch windows. It's just a single pane window. Those are all being replaced with new glazing and then reset, re-waterproofed. So completion anticipated in April 2023, but we're going to be working closely with NRG Cladding, the contractor, and obviously Recreation Department to see if we can have a soft opening of certain areas of the tower as the scaffolding comes down, while there still may be some internal renovation work being done to the building. I think there's going to be areas that we can reopen to the public. So we'll work closely with Mike and his recreation group on that. Moving right along, George King Boulevard bus stops. We have 4 existing bus stops along the corridor there that are being currently fabricated. So we've been talking about this project. We've been working in conjunction with Space Coast TPO and Space Coast Area Transit as well. So they'll have the Port Canaveral logo with the anti-graffiti coating. And we'll also have the bike rack, the trash receptacle, other amenities there, including a solar light fixture. So we are currently in fabrication. Just going to go around the port with a few projects. I'm not going to highlight all of them, but a few I do want to call out. These are all of our cruise-related projects, and as Captain Murray mentioned, we have a great need for expanded parking facilities. So in November, we've got another big ship coming to port CT1 on a 3-4. We're going to be coming back to you with expanded parking project at the March 1st meeting, and that's going to be right about here. It's going to work in concert with the Flash system, parking system changeout. And following that, we will also be planning future structured parking at Cruise Terminal 8. So we have a little bit more time on this project. We'll be soliciting for a design criteria consultant, and then later this year, late summer, early fall, looking for design builders to give us a garage over here just north of Cruise Terminal 8, existing garage. So lots of parking improvements being planned, and as Captain Murray mentioned also, we're going to be adding the Flash system change out to the Cruise Terminal 10 campus. To bring relief to some of the currently pay on exit issues that we're having there. We're going to convert it to full on pay on entry garage. Feel free to stop me if you have questions on cargo projects. We've talked about these. We've got a lot of activity happening in cargo, and again, North Cargo Berth 4 is out on the street for step 1 qualifications. General port projects, things are going fairly well on the bridge painting, the painway signalization. We've talked about that, the bus stops, and then here are all of our recreation projects that we currently have planned and in construction, including the exploration tower. That is my brief. Are there any specific questions, anything that I missed?
I'd just like to commend you on your graphic presentation. It really helps make it meaningful.
The video explains a lot,
Yes,
doesn't it? So
yes.
we'll try to do that more frequently, and we have a great media team that helps substantially in producing that.
It's way better than just pointing fingers and so forth. So,
Better than the death by PowerPoint. approach,
yes.
too, So
Yes, thank you.
understood. Thank you very much.
What's that? Yeah. Okay, I believe we have one public comment on the consent agenda. That would be Mr. Tom Parker.
Good morning. Forgive me if I'm a little nervous. Last time I spoke to any kind of commission was in Brevard County, and I was supporting a condo project that my neighbors didn't support, so I got booed. So I'm not that great at public speaking, but anyways, we're just builders. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Tom Parker, and I'm the president of Doug Wilson Enterprises. I want to start by telling you guys I had a different speech written for today. But I ran it by a friend of mine who suggested that I tone it down, and I take his advice very seriously. But what can I say? I'm a passionate guy when it comes to my company. I want to tell you I've been a resident of this entire area for my entire life. Born here in 1969, I graduated from Cocoa Beach High School in 1988. I've never seen the port ran better than it is now under its current leadership, and I mean that sincerely. You truly have a great group at the top. I've been a part of port projects since 1996, when Doug hired me on CT8. And I've seen a lot of changes. Back then I remember sitting in meetings in the old offices that were down the street with the port director sitting there smoking at the meetings, chewing people out. So could you imagine what that was like back then? I'm going to speak on the subject of the continuing services contract for landside construction. I don't want this to come off the sour grapes or sound like a sore loser. I know life in business is you win some, you lose some. I just hope to get my fair share, and I really have gotten my fair share, and I'm grateful for that. I am here to express my disappointment in the process and the outcome, as I'm sure anyone can imagine. Seeing my company that I love ranked so poorly stings not a little, but it stings a lot. I take it particularly hard because I'm proud to be the holder of Doug's legacy. If you came to my office, you will see how much the port's work is part of the very fabric of our identity as a company. This past Sunday, it's been 9 years since Doug passed away, if you can believe that. It really seems like yesterday. So I've been carrying this weight for a long time. And I do believe he'd be proud of me. It seems like there's a disconnect between our past performance with the port and how I have presented it and how it has been perceived in our proposals. I guess I'm kind of old school like Doug was. We are hardworking guys who love construction. We're maybe a little more blue collar than the other companies. I don't have a marketing team. I write these proposals myself. That hasn't got me very far, and I can see that. I'm going to have a talk with my English teacher from Cocoa Beach High School if I can find her. She'll probably remind me that that was my own fault for how I behaved at Cocoa Beach High School in the 80s. But one place we do love to work is the port. We've had some tough but really fun projects. We have great memories of jobs that we are really proud of. Like in 2019, I attended the pre-bid construction for the Exploration Tower repairs. There was not a lot of interest in the job. One guy even told me he only came out to check out the job, but they don't go after jobs like that. They were too messy and hard. There's easier work out there. Well, we didn't scare away from it. We bid the job and we won the job. We performed it and we performed it well. I was proud of our hard work and dedication. My son worked on that job when he was in high school. He and the laborers from them still get together and laugh at the times that went on with some of the more colorful public characters that hang around the port sometimes.
Mr. Parker, briefly, that has been your 3 minutes, but go ahead and
sorry.
Please, no, go ahead and finish.
Okay. I know, I'm a little wordy here, but I'm very passionate. When the port came to look at the leaking roof and 60,000 square foot building behind us, we worked hard through many different options. We priced the roof many different ways. We researched and came up with a system that we could use. without interruption to your tenants. That building leaked from one end to the other with an important tenant. We did what a CM is supposed to do. What seemed like an impossible task ended up being very successful. When CT8 came out, it was a complex project. There was hardly any interest in the project. There was only a couple of us that even bothered to show up at the pre-bid. I believe we won the job because we knew the scope and the project more than anybody else did. And it was hard. It was a complicated project. We have, when we sit around telling war stories, we talk about the time of seeing my vice president on a lift with a cutoff torch, working harder than anyone I've ever seen, or Nate and my guys working Sundays, away from their families to get it done. And lastly, the most recent memory is the 2 hurricanes that hit Florida this fall, sparing us the worst, but causing damage to the port. My guys worked days and nights to make sure the fishing pier was reopened. We made it a priority because we knew how much it mattered to the port that the pier was open. After the last Hurricane Nicole, I had 3 guys spend a weekend climbing on the jetties, picking out railings that came off because the weld on the base plates broke off. They looked back and smiled, knowing how crazy it was out there, but how much their hard work paid off. And we spent nights and weekends reinstalling them. It wasn't a high-dollar job, but it was critical. We got it open before the holidays, as was the desire. Finally, I'd just like to say that, the CM contract doesn't produce what some would consider a lot of work, but it is to me. The $3 million terminal is too small for one firm, and a $3.4 million job is too small for another one, or a site work job is too complex. And wait till they find out that the contract produces projects ranging from $20,000 to $80,000, if that. But that work is very important to me. All the port work is important to me. I use my name and reputation to get companies to stop what they are doing to come out to the port when they are asked. And then I pay them quickly to make sure they come back. I do that because I want to, not because I have to. And because I hope it helps the port project, which in turn would help me. In conclusion, I would just like to ask the port to have another look at this solicitation, as I will take the time to look at how I approach these RFPs. I acknowledge we need to work on how we approach our proposals. I guess some upgraded marketing would do me a lot of good. I just hope the port would take a look at these RFPs and help make it so that a smaller firm stands a chance. Help businesses and not hold it against them for being too small or not having marketing departments who produce elaborate books and presentations. They're small jobs which we are better suited for than anyone. I can say that because I've done it. I just wish somehow the results were better related to past performance. I just hope making me speaking up, I can at least feel like I did what was right and stood up for my company and the guys who gave so much for these projects. We want a future with the port. We've shown we can do it, and we have earned it with our work. After something like this, I'd normally take the rest of the day off and maybe hit the beach or make Gavin take me fishing on his boat. But I have too much to do later. And later I get to go to the Teacher of the Year Awards. I'm going to give a little shout out here to my wife, being honored as the Teacher of the Year at the port's closest school, Capeview Elementary School. And I promised her I would be on my best behavior. So thank you for listening.
Thank you for your input. On to the consent agenda. Commissioner Van Valkenburg, is there any item that you'd like to pull for discussion?
No, I'm fine, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Lloyd?
I will pull 1D and 1E.
1D and 1E. Commissioner Justice?
All set, thank you.
Okay. That's an extensive list. May I have a motion to approve 1A, 1B, 1C, 1F, 1G, and 2A?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So, Commissioner Lloyd, floor is yours.
I just wanted Bill to kind of talk about the process and kind of what staff is up against. I did, I am a general contractor here, so I have all the general contractors to kind of take care of and make sure the process is fair. So I would like you to talk about kind of what that process is and then what you're looking for and go from there.
Be glad to. Thank you, Commissioner Lloyd, for the opportunity. And just like to start off by complimenting Tom Parker, Doug Wilson Enterprises, Gavin, Nate, on the quality of work that they produce. It's second to none, and you can see that in the Disney CT8 Phase 2 expansion that they did for us and a couple of other projects that he has done over the years. Always very grateful their level of effort and the quality of work product that they produce, and encourage them and any other small contractor or medium-sized contractor, whomever, to continue to pursue work at the port. We have a couple of upcoming jobs that will attract a lot of attention, and we encourage them to participate. When it comes to continuing contracts, such as the one we're talking about, the two that we're talking about, landside and waterside, we have a fairly clear prescriptive solicitation document, and aesthetics are not part of what we require. We do require key data as far as personnel and projects, value of projects, financial value of projects. We require clear indication based on the years when those projects were completed, in the last 5 years or the last 10 years, depending upon what the solicitation requires. So we really do, when we sit down in this case with, I think we had 11 different submittal booklets, I can assure you that the port staff, whether it's my team or other departments, and we usually have a great mix of departments that participate in these reviews, they sit down with the solicitation proposals and go through each phase or each tab one by one. If it's about personnel, organizational chart, if it's about safety, they'll go through our solicitation from the advertisement and look technically what is required to be listed, and then they'll review sheet by sheet, almost as if they were grading a high school algebra exam or something like that. Irregardless of what company it is, we just take an objective look at how closely they responded to the details requested in that solicitation document. And then ultimately, once they're complete with evaluating each of the various proposals based on each of the tabs, and when I say tabs, it's literally a tab that is a divisional tab within the section of their proposal booklet, they'll assign a level of points, numerical point system. At the end of that process, all of those points are tallied, and they're given a score, in this case, out of 100. And then we show all of the bidders their respective scores that they earned out of 100 of how they responded to the technical data and details required within that solicitation. It is certainly not an indication that one of the contractors may not be qualified. In fact, all 11 of these contractors are great contractors, all of them very qualified to do the work. It literally comes down to the score that was earned and how they technically filled out and responded to the data required by the solicitation. And at that point, then it becomes a matter of how many continuing services contracts do we need. In years past, we've only had 3 or 4. In the last 5 years, we've had 6. In this case, we had, I think, a couple of firms that tied for 5 and 6. And we had a fairly straightforward cutoff at a score of 90, which gave us 7, one more than we had in the last 5 years, but still a reasonable number. And then we move forward with a recommendation on those 7 scored companies. Is that clear? Any other questions? Did I miss anything?
But we did have, we had a, like compared to last year, it's every other year?
Every 5 years.
Every 5 years. So the last time this was bid out, we had maybe half of these contractors didn't participate, right?
We had a number of new commercial contractors that did provide proposals this go around as well. And a lot of the jobs that they indicated in their packets were great jobs, great examples of commercial construction projects in Brevard County, the state of Florida. And it was very impressive showing of the talent that's available in our contracting community. Again, it just came down to rating them and applying points to how well they responded to the technical requirements of the solicitation.
So on the water side, we had very little participation.
We did. It was quite the opposite.
So
I can comment on that for sure. We traditionally do have great response to our competitive bid solicitations that are low bid lump sum. For example, the continuing contracts, those are cost plus contracts. So it's a master services agreement. There's no specific job attached to this, but those contractors we select, then we can issue work orders for specific projects to them with a cap of $4 million. When it comes to the upcoming project, North Cargoburst 4 that I highlighted, we're likely to get a half a dozen marine contractors pursuing that because it's very competitive. It's a large value project. Marine contractors have a lot of heavy assets. You can witness that from North Cargoburst 3, barges, crane mounted barges. And having spoke with some marine contractors over the years, they indicate that unless they have that heavy equipment here locally, which is not common, it's difficult even on a cost plus contract to be cost competitive. So there was one firm that we had the last 5 years on the water side that pursued the land side CM at risk contract this round, and would have liked to have seen them recompete for water side because we do have a lot of little fender replacement jobs here and there on the water side. But we ended up with Rush Marine. Rush Marine has proven to be a valuable partner, and they have won multiple large jobs based on competitive pricing. So we're glad to see them now a part of this cost plus contract.
And thank you, Bill. I think you've covered the process pretty well. And I'll say that one of the things I do is I challenge staff whenever we're in our briefings, and John and Bill and Mr. Poole is usually in the conversation as well. But it's very important to me that we take a project that can be bid out low bid, and we put out an RFP for it. And Doug Wilson, you've already said this, Doug Wilson is more than invited to compete in that process. So I would encourage them to do that. I know we have to have a process, and it's hard to put a line somewhere. So hopefully we can all work together and continue a fair process. But I know staff works very hard on that. So thanks, Bill.
Thank you.
So Commissioner Lloyd, would you like to move for approval of those two items?
Yes, I'd like to move for approval of 1D and 1E.
May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. I think we have one more public comment. Mr. Richard Essig, please approach the podium.
Thank you. 3 minutes. Yeah, it's going to be brief. Richard Essig, I live a mile south here on Atlantic Avenue. Overview from a layman's point from afar for you guys and Captain Murray. 2 things. No, I have 6 things. Christmas, we used to have beautiful decorations by Fish Lips from FPL. We have nothing at the port for Christmas decoration. Second thing, we enjoyed a New Year's at the Rising Tide and went outside at midnight. I think you ought to put on one heck of a fireworks display at midnight. Your 4th of July are good. The other thing, and we were fortunate enough to cruise to Nassau last week, I would encourage you to boast about your port with big signage, neon, LED for the millions of people that come in and out of your port. Welcome or bon voyage or what have you. Big signs saying welcome or bon voyage. I've been to every island in the Caribbean. I think some are good. This port is clean and nice, but I would brag about yourself and help those passengers when I come back to your port. I think that would be a great idea. Either Jetty Park, Terminal 3 Garage, wherever you would site it so inbound and outbound passengers would see it. I think you ought to do that. Boast a little bit about your port because it can be beautiful. Jetty Park, I'd rather put a sticker in my windshield rather than a QR code on my phone to get out, in and out, like the old days were. So I don't see anyone marketing Port Canaveral t-shirts or long sleeve shirts. I think it'd be a great idea. I would be interested in making Port Canaveral t-shirts. I'll try to contact the appropriate person, but I think that'd be nice for the port to have their own t-shirt sales. And that's it. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Didn't we have shirt sales at Exploration Tower?
We do. We had it at Exploration Tower, and our T-shirt and sports shirt sales have all been moved out to the Jetty Park store.
Okay, thank you.
Get in there,
It's a good point.
unless you're camping.
Mike, if somebody wants to buy something, are they allowed into the store? How does that work?
Can't get through the gate.
So it's gated. The campground's gated, and you need a code to get in. I haven't heard anyone request to come into the camp store to purchase anything.
Because they don't know there's something to buy there.
Correct. So we can definitely make the staff aware if someone does want to purchase something that we can provide them the gate code and they can enter the park.
Okay. We do have T-shirts and sports shirts.
The other point is that when we have the new store, it'll be opened up so that people can.
Amanda, I'm sorry, you need to come back.
What Amanda's saying is the new camp store is actually going to be built on the fence line of the day park. So that will give the ability of the day park guests to enter into the camp store. That would pretty much resolve that issue. So we'll get a higher increased foot traffic from that, and the capability for day park guests will be able to purchase items.
Mike, don't we also have a gate there now? If somebody's on the Jetty Park side, they can come through to the store on that side?
Correct, but it has code. It's the same thing as, so you can't enter through the campground. We try and keep it as private for our guests as possible, but we understand that people do want to purchase items.
And what's that code?
All right, he's got a million of them. Commissioner reports. I'll ask Caitlin Lewis to approach the podium and speak, I believe, on behalf of our absent Commissioner Allender.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Commissioner Allender had asked me to provide a few quick remarks in his absence today. With the start of the new year, the Space Coast Transportation Planning Organization, the TPO, has created a new Regional Intermodal Connections Committee with the purpose to gather information, collaborate, and have open and ongoing discussions about the possibility of having a passenger rail station in Brevard County. The invitation to join the group was extended by the TPO to various community leaders, such as local governments, Port Canaveral being one, local chambers of commerce, private companies, such as the Vieira Company and Deseret Cattle and Citrus. 2 members of the TPO governing board sit on this committee, one of which is Jerry Allender. The other is the TPO board chair and council member Andrea Young. Bob Musser and I are also providing staff support and attending the meetings with Commissioner Allender. The Department of Transportation, Brightline, and East Coast Central Florida Regional Planning Council are participating only as advisors. They're asked to present on various topics and attend when necessary. The first committee meeting was held on January 18th. It was introductory in nature, provided a bit of a framework for the upcoming 5 meetings. We are happy to be participating on behalf of Port Canaveral, and Commissioner Allender is going to be providing you with some periodic updates as we tick along with the meetings throughout the year. If you want more information, the Space Coast TPO houses a list of the members, the agendas, and the meeting schedule on their website under the Intermodal Planning section. And that is about it. Are there any questions on the new committee? All right.
Thank you very much.
I actually have a comment. It looks like Georgiana is in the back there.
Yes.
Okay, you're going to do the best you can for the port?
Always.
Okay. She's the executive director of the TPO.
Very good.
Thank you.
Commissioner Justice.
Yes, I had a chance, I spoke at the, I was able to pump the port at the Space Coast Realtors elected officials luncheon. Just before Christmas in December, the I think it's one of the best events in this county. I was able to keynote the 1,000 people plus at the Wreaths Across America up at the Cape Canaveral National Cemetery. That's a really good event. In January, I gave a port update to the Palm Beach Chamber of Commerce down south. And then, and most importantly, this Saturday at 10 a.m. I'll be one of the speakers at the Celebration of Life for Captain Ed Lanny. It's going to be held at the Cocoa Civic Center, 10 a.m. this Saturday for Captain Ed Lanny. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Lloyd.
I have no report, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Van Valkenburg.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to, I'm delighted to inform the board that we have 2 new port ambassadors, unless there are any objections. Janice Scott, I believe, is in the audience. Janice, if you could stand up, just we could, welcome aboard. And Sean Conway, who's way in the back there. So,
Welcome.
yeah, thank you very much. And that's all I have, sir.
I cruised last weekend and just wanted to share that my interface with the port as a customer was seamless. So well done, everybody. So we shall adjourn. Our February meeting is actually going to be held March 1st at 9 o'clock. So have a great day, everyone. Meeting adjourned. Yeah.